Cowboy Logic, Episode 1. Never approach a bull from the front, a horse from the rear, or a fool from any direction. I'm Ann Dunbar, and welcome to the very first episode of Cowboy Logic. I'm a romance author. I write romance and romantic suspense novels, including Starting Over in Montana, Anya's Salvation, and I've got a new one coming out called Bet's Christmas Gamble. Each week in this podcast, I'm going to share a piece of cowboy wisdom and talk about how it applies to life, love, and writing. Because here's the thing. Those old cowboys, they knew what they were talking about. So, let's dive into today's cowboy logic. Never approach a bull from the front, a horse from the rear, or a fool from any direction. Now, on the surface, this is pretty straightforward ranch wisdom, right? Bulls are dangerous head on. Horses can and do kick. And fools, well, engaging with fools is just a waste of your time and energy, no matter which way they come at you from. No, this is about choosing your battles, about knowing when to walk away, about not wasting your precious energy on people and situations that are only going to drain you. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the biggest fool you'll ever encounter isn't even a person at all. Sometimes the fool is that voice inside your own head. You know, the one that's telling you you can't, or you shouldn't even try, that you're going to fail no matter what, so why even bother? And that's the fool I almost listened to. So I've always been shy and quiet, you know, that kind of person that fades into the background. Writing, that was my escape. I could create worlds and characters. I could be brave. And I could say things out loud that I would never say in the real world. But actually sharing that writing or putting it out to the world, well, that terrified me. So when I was 45, I went home to West Virginia to visit my family and my dad. And during that visit, my dad did something that changed everything for me. He pulled out this poem, a poem that I'd written when I was 18 years old. The poem was on a piece of paper that was all wrinkly, covered with coffee stains, but looked so well loved. Now, this poem is terrible, I felt, and it felt like it was the worst thing I'd ever written. But my dad, he had kept this poem for 27 years. He'd even made copies of it and posted it all over his house. So he comes and he looks at me and he says, "Girl, you can write, so why don't you?" And you know what I did? Well, I brushed it off. I said something like, yeah, maybe someday. Because that voice, that fool in my head was telling me I wasn't good enough, that no one would want to read what I wrote. I'd put myself out there and I'd fail, and everyone would know it. So, a few years later, my dad died, and suddenly, maybe someday felt like the cruelest words I had ever spoken, because someday was gone. My dad had believed in me, and I had wasted the time I had with him being too afraid to even try. That's when I realized, later had to be now, that life was too short to let fear make my decisions for me. So I signed up for a creative writing class on how to write a novel. And that's where I started writing Starting Over in Montana. I stopped approaching that fool, that voice of fear in my head, and I just started writing and eventually publishing. My dad used to tell me something else too. He'd say, "You never start a fight, but if you have to fight, then you damn well sure finish it standing." And you know what? All my characters are like my dad. Gabriel and Jeb, the cowboys in my books and stories, they don't go looking for trouble. They're not the kind of men who pick fights or waste their time on nonsense. But when something matters, when someone they love needs protecting, they show up, they fight, and they finish it standing. That's the wisdom I try to live by now. That's what I wish I had learned earlier. So here's what I want you to take away from today's Cowboy Logic. Don't let the fear be the fool you waste your time approaching. My dad believed in me long before I believed in myself. And if you're sitting on a story, a dream, a maybe someday, I'm here to tell you what My dad told me, you can do this, so why don't you? Make someday today. Now, if you want to see Gabriel and Jeb in action, check out Starting Over in Montana and Anya's Salvation. The links are in the description below. And keep an eye out for Bet's Christmas Gamble coming November the 17th. Thank you for listening to Cowboy Logic. I will see you next Saturday with another piece of cowboy wisdom. Now get out there and finish standing.